Alrighty. Hey, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Lauren, film student extraordinaire, and today we are going live, obviously, to talk about depression, the stigma against depression, and I'm going to be talking about my YouTube short that went low-key viral somehow, and why that really inspired this video. I even put on the same shirt from that video because I was like, might as well, though as you can see, I'm not wearing makeup, so I do not do that every day. I don't always have the energy or the inspo to do so. But before we get really into the meat and potatoes of the comments that I want to be reading out, I just want to give a little definition about what stigma is, right? So when it comes to your mental illness, stigma is when someone sees you in a negative way because of your mental illness, and then discrimination is when someone would treat you in a negative way because of your mental illness. So we're going to be talking about stigma in this video, but discrimination is also incredibly bad. And because they're really treating you in a way, it is arguably worse. Basically, the stigma against depression makes things a lot worse, and just in general for your mental health, because they can stop the person from getting the help they need, and it can really just make you feel, you as in the general you, or you specifically if it relates, like something's wrong with you, and you may have a mental illness, but it doesn't actually mean something's wrong with you. It's a lot more complicated than that. So we can think of some of the harmful effects of stigma being feelings of shame, hopelessness, isolation. I know sometimes I feel totally hopeless. I feel purposeless. I feel like there's no point to anything, and it can really suck, honestly. Then there's the reluctance to ask for help or get treatment. Thankfully, as far as I'm concerned, I've never had a problem with asking for help to get treatment. I'm the one who, way back in high school, asked my mom if I could go to therapy, and then I pushed to get into like the new program that I'm currently in. So I've definitely been like a proactive in that regard, but I understand that it's not always so easy for people to ask for help because it's almost like, well, will they really take me seriously? I look fine. Or like for me, I've, been achieving good things at school. I have friends, but that just because I may have this external, very good bubble, that doesn't mean that on the inside, everything's like all peachy, right? Then there's the effect of feeling like there's no understanding between like your family doesn't understand you, your friends, don't understand you. It's like no one understands. And it may be dramatic and be like, but it doesn't matter how dramatic that is because it's a legitimate thing. Now, luckily, I'm feeling in a place pretty good today. I went to church this morning. We got a new foster cat. I went to the grocery store. Like, I'm feeling pretty good. But the other day, I was not feeling so good. And I probably, if I was making this video a couple days ago, would be a very different video because my outlook on life would be a little bit lower because I'd be feeling like I'm kind of reaching out into the void versus now I feel like I'm trying to be understood, and there's a chance that there will be a degree of understanding that is reached through this video. I think another effect can also be there's like few opportunities to make friends. It might feel like you have less chances of getting a certain job. Now, that hasn't really affected me yet, but I may affect me in the future. Obviously, could be like actual bullying, violence, or harassment. I don't really think I generally get bullied or anything for having any mental illnesses, though I have gotten some pretty rude comments on some of my YouTube videos, including the one that I made about pretending I'm not depressed, with my little emoji that like apparently really bothered people. And then there's self-doubt where you feel like you're never going to amount to anything or be able to achieve what you want because your mental illness is all consuming and has taken over your life. And I think that's the most depressing thing to think about, the idea that you can't get over this. It'll always be there and ruining everything. And sometimes it does feel like that. And I, was telling my therapist the other day, it's like, why am I not happy? Like, why can't I just be happy like everybody else? Like, what's wrong with me? And it was really sad. I was like crying and it was not good. Um, and I had to be reminded, like, it's not like you did anything wrong. It's just how it is. And it's not that it's okay to, that's how it is, but it's not a terrible thing to not be always happy all the time. You just have to, find the happiness when you can and be, seek for contentment and satisfaction. And I'm working on that. I'm definitely not there yet, but it's a work in progress. So when it comes to my viral video, which let me see, pulling up the studio. At the time of recording, we are up to, let's see, basically 340,000 views, 518 comments, and like 8,700 likes. That's a lot. That's a lot, like surreal a lot. And I didn't think that video was gonna get like any views. I just made it because I needed like an extra boost to get ready because I was feeling kind of blue. So I was like, I feel kind of gross. I was like, well, what might make it feel better? Well, I could get dressed, put on some makeup. And as for an extra boost, why don't I film it to make sure I actually do it, right? Like if I tell myself, oh, I'm going to film this, I'll actually do it for the video's sake, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm filming it. I brush my hair. Everyone said my hair is like curly. And I was like, yeah, it is actually is curly when I like dry it a different way. Fun fact. And I do like it. It just like is high maintenance. Um, and I just made it to be like, look at me, like pretending that it's just like a normal day for anybody, in a movie. You know how people wake up and they do their makeup, they do your hair, and then they go on their merry way. That's what I was just trying to emulate, and I honestly didn't think anyone was gonna really see it. I think my average short before it kind of took off and now my shorts get picked up, we're getting maybe 50 to 100 views, so that's kind of what I was expecting. But of course, it took off, right? And most of the comments are really positive, and I was really enjoying hearing people share their stories with their mental illnesses and responding and having a bit of dialogue. But some of the comments were really rude, very like missing the point, or just trying to be annoying, I sort of felt to me. And that did bother me a lot, and I thought maybe I would talk about it a bit today, and I will be showing some screenshots of the comments because it would take too long to kind of scroll through just the general comments, and you are gonna see usernames, but they posted them publicly on the publicly posted short, so it is I'm not revealing any information that was not known. None of these were private conversations. It was all publicly put, and, um, I think that's fair of me to be talking about them since they literally commented themselves. Now, I tried to comment to every post, and one of them you'll see, it's the same comment because I just copy and pasted it. So if I share this, I think it looks like you can now see it, so that's great. So these are the comments for my video. So someone said people think depression is aesthetic, and then they did my little emoji face, and I was like, well, that's kind of mean. And I said blame my massive serotonin levels because I was grumpy at this point. But this was like something from earlier today. And it's just so annoying to me because it's like, no, depression's not aesthetic, and by making a short about it, I wasn't saying it was aesthetic. I wasn't trying to go viral in any capacity. I was just showing my experience, and I wasn't even trying to film it all fancy bougily like it was just very aggravating to me. Um, so I said blame my mess of serotonin. Then this one was like a conversation that actually sort of I felt like went somewhere beneficial. So it started with someone, with a capital lowercase letters. I'm so depressed. So I said, yep. Why? What even is depression? And then I said, well, for me, I have something off with my brain chemistry. So my serotonin levels are lower than average. And because of this, I take SSRIs or serotonin reuptake inhibitors. I think that's what this stands for. So to help get like more serotonin. Yay me. And they were like, so does it make you feel like you're really alone and sad? And I was like, yeah, it can. Other times it makes me feel like a hollow shell. And they said, oh, I'm sorry. I hope you begin to feel better. And I said, me too. So this conversation like went somewhere positive. It kind of started not so positive. They were just like, but then maybe they didn't think I was actually going to reply. Not sure. Then this person, I thought it was just weird. They did dot dot dots, and then they also did like WYARU still? Like, why are you still? Maybe that means why are you still depressed? Because it's not something that you can just switch off and on. And we got a comment. in the chat, that's the thing about the internet. There's no such thing as taboo. That's one of its blessings and one of its curses. Yeah, people can kind of do what they want on the internet. And I mean, I like that you can kind of say what you want in the sense that you can like put more stuff out there and there can be more growth, more discussions, but sometimes it's just really insensitive, which can be obviously a bit of a bummer. Then someone also said Thanos was right all along. I'm not sure if that means like Thanos was right to like snap away half the population and I should have been like poofed away. So that's pretty rude. Or anyone with mental illness should have been poofed away. I think that's also really rude and just I disagree with a lot of that stuff, but I just said question mark, question mark. And then someone else said nobody cares. And I didn't even bother replying to that because you obviously cared enough to comment. So if you really didn't care, you could have just swiped away or disliked it and just like left. But no, you put a comment. So you must have cared somewhat. And then someone else said, yeah, depressed people normally don't wear clothes or brush their hair. I said, I was just trying to showcase the extra effort I put in sometimes to give myself a boost. And then they said, oh, sorry. And then someone else said, LMAO, gatekeeping unhappiness. And it's like, yeah, like this person's being like, haha, because you're just like lying about this. And then when I actually was genuine and explained my motivation, they were like, oh, sorry. But, they could have just not jumped to that conclusion in the first place. Then someone said, bro, depressed people don't go on social media spreading the fact that they're depressed. It's like, stop trying to seek attention. And I said, bro, depressed people are all very different. And then they said, I'm sorry, but it's clear you're just trying to seek attention. Depressed people don't try to tell the whole universe they're depressed. Then I said, I'm sorry that you have a very narrow-minded view of depression. I think it is very important to talk about mental illnesses because there's still a huge stigma around them. Hence this video. I have bipolar 2, which means I go from depressive periods to hypomania at times, plus I have anxiety and depression. I'm on multiple meds and in 15 hours of therapy a week. No one should have to prove their mental illness, but maybe listing out the facts will widen your idea of what depression is and looks like. That's kind of, this is really what inspired me to make this video because this person's saying that just because you're telling someone you're depressed, you're just seeking attention. And I think this is a really toxic mindset because if someone's saying, oh, you're just trying to get attention, that's when you ignore people like reaching out for help, which I think is incredibly problematic. Oh, I see we got another comment. That is incidentally why I dislike the toxic positivity movement. Be happy, you have so much to live for. Yeah, people I think can be way too just like happy, love bomby, just like, oh my God, everything is good. Like, just think about what you have to be grateful for. And I got a ton of comments on the video also that were just saying, oh, well, you're so pretty. Like, just be happy, or like, oh, well, just don't be depressed. And it's like, if I didn't, if I could choose to not be depressed, I would not be depressed. Like, it's not, no kind of attention is worth the terrible feelings that I have sometimes. It's just not worth it. And if I could, turn it on off like a light switch, it would be off. Okay. So it's just very hurtful. And then we got even with you would still be depressed from the inside. Depression doesn't come on your looks. I said, yeah, the pretending part. Like obviously depression doesn't just come from your looks. And I think some people really missed that memo somehow. And then someone else said, I have depression, but I will never just be like, hey, watch me pretend I'm not depressed. Then I honestly said, to be honest, I didn't expect anyone to watch this video. I just made it to cope because, as I said, I made it to literally help me get out of bed that day. And they're like, oh, okay, haha. Again, people just assume you're just trying to be like attention seeking or doing something out of like malicious intent, when really, you don't know what's going on in someone's head. You don't know why someone's doing something. And then we have the last one, pretending I'm not depressed. Are you that desperate for attention? Depression is a serious thing. It kills people every day, and you make a fake little video about it for clout. Wow. Someone very kindly said, and you're the one assuming this random girl you saw on the internet is faking having depression. And then I did that long post. I just copy and paste it from before. But yeah, it's like it is a serious thing, and that's why I'm making the video. So it's just very aggravating to sometimes see these comments and think like, well, what are you responding to people in your real life? Like, is that what you say to someone in real life? if they tell you they're depressed. You're like, "Oh, you're just seeking attention," or it's really serious, like, "Oh, but you're laughing, you're smiling, you must not actually be depressed." I think that's not good, that's not beneficial, it's not helpful to anybody, and, so it's just, like, a mess. And yeah, you can't be depressed because you wear clothes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, because, like, you, like, do everything like a normal person. What do you expect? Like, do you think everyone with a mental illness is living in, like, a psychiatric ward? Like, no. There are people, we're all over the place trying to just live our lives the best way we can, and that's really all there is to it. So, I just wanted to make this video and, like, talk about that, and I just wanna end with some steps to cope with the stigma, and they're definitely gonna be easier said than done. And I've also linked the sources for some of this stuff down below in the description. So, the first step is to get treatment, like get help. And I know that can be so hard, and especially depending on where you are, you may not be able to afford it. And I wish I had a solution for that, but I really don't. Then there's don't let stigma create that self doubt and shame. Really fight against that and think about the things you do have and try to be proud of what you can do and what you have accomplished. Then the big one that for me is don't isolate yourself. I definitely will isolate, not even on purpose. I just will spend a lot more time in my room, even though I'm pretty extroverted, which then makes me like more depressed because then I'm lonely. So it's just like this cycle, right? Building up on itself. Then we have don't equate yourself with your illness, right? So you are not depression. Like depression is not your entire personality. If you're depressed, it's just an element that you may have. And it's okay to say, like, I have depression, but you are not your mental illness. And I think that's important to remember. Then there's, joining a support group. I think that's kind of like, maybe it's an online community, maybe it's an in person community. It doesn't really matter as long as, you're realizing that there are lots of people out there like you. And that's one of the reasons that I'm pretty open about my mental health on YouTube and just in general, because I want people to realize they're not by themselves, they're not alone. Then if you're at school, maybe try to get help at school, whether it's in college or high school or whatever. And then finally, like speak out against stigma, which is what I'm trying to do with this video. So I hope this was interesting and just a reminder also that people do read comments and they can be really hurtful. So just think about what you're saying, before you say it. And you should think about that in the real world too when you're being, verbally speaking. So yeah, with that being said, if you thought this video was interesting and you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to comment down below whatever you would like. And of course, remember to subscribe so that you can see all my other videos where I talk about film, commentary, lifestyle, mental health, the whole nine yards. And I will see you next time.